Have you ever looked back on a memory so warm, so golden, that you almost forget the darkness buried beneath it? For me, that memory is the summer of 2003. I was 10 years old, staying at my grandparents' enormous beachfront house in Outer Banks, North Carolina. It was the kind of place that creaked with charm: sand in the floorboards, linen curtains that swayed like whispers, and a horizon so blue it looked fake. Every summer, our extended family, cousins, aunts, uncles, in-laws, family friends, flooded the house like a cheerful tide. It was loud, messy, full of BBQ smoke and board games, sea salt and sunscreen. But out of the dozens of faces I saw that summer, one always stands out: Uncle Adrian. Everyone loved Adrian. He was that kind of man: charming, warm, the first to help with dishes and the last to leave a bonfire. He had a therapist's calm voice and a smile that disarmed you. At 10, I thought he was the smartest man alive. I'd sit next to him at dinner just to hear him talk. He listened like you mattered, even if you were just a kid rambling about nightmares and cereal. And that summer, I needed someone to listen, because I'd started dreaming. No, not just dreaming, seeing. Every night I closed my eyes, I was pulled into the same nightmare. I was lying in my bed, in that upstairs guest room with the ocean view. But instead of water outside the window, there was blackness, thick, writhing black. And there was something in it, something that pressed its face to the glass and smiled. Sometimes it whispered in a voice that sounded like mine. Sometimes it just watched. The dreams felt real, more real than anything. I told my parents. They shrugged it off. Just too much beach sun. Your imagination's running wild, all the things you tell a kid. But when I told Uncle Adrian, he leaned in, serious, and said, "Tell me everything." He asked me questions like a doctor might, only softer. What did I feel when I saw the thing? Was it fear or recognition? Did it look like someone I knew? I didn't know how to answer half of them, but I felt understood. At first, it helped. He said nightmares were like bruises on the inside, caused by things we didn't want to admit. Sometimes we repress pain, he told me, especially kids, especially when they want to keep their parents happy. Then, he asked me if I was angry at mom and dad. I told him no. He smiled and nodded. Sometimes we don't know we are, but the mind remembers. He told me to try something. The next time my parents asked me to do something, anything, I should say no. Just to feel what it was like to assert myself. Push back, he said. It's the only way to wake the subconscious. I remember doing it. When my dad asked me to help clean the patio, I said I didn't want to. When my mom asked me to come to the kitchen, I ignored her. It felt strange, wrong even. But part of me was proud, like I was finally doing what Uncle Adrian said I needed. That night, the dream got worse. The thing at the window wasn't outside anymore. It was inside, standing at the foot of my bed, smiling that same knowing smile. It didn't move, didn't speak, just watched, like it was waiting for something. I woke up screaming. When I told Adrian the next morning, he seemed pleased. Not in a joyful way, but like a man who'd confirmed a theory. He placed a hand on my shoulder and said, "You're close. Very close. But there's one more thing." I asked what he meant. He knelt beside me, looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Your mind, it's too mature for your body. That's why it hurts so much. You're trapped inside something that's too small for what you really are. You need to be set free." I didn't understand, and I told him so. He leaned closer and whispered, "Tonight, I'll show you how." I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, heart pounding, waiting for something. Anything. The wind outside rattled the windows and the moon cast shadows that twisted like fingers across the room. Then I heard it. A whisper. "Are you awake?" I froze. The voice was right next to my bed. Low, familiar. Adrian. I kept my eyes shut, pretending to sleep. I felt his breath. Heard him murmur something under it. Too low to understand, like he was chanting or praying. Then something cold touched my forehead. That was it. I bolted, ran barefoot down the hallway screaming for my parents. The rest is a blur. My dad is yelling, lights turning on. The family's pouring out of bedrooms. Adrian was standing there looking stunned, like he was the one being attacked. I told them everything, every detail. There was silence, then chaos. My father and uncle nearly came to blows. Someone called the cops. Adrian was locked in the den until they arrived. I remember my mother holding me on the couch, shaking. The next day, the house was quiet. No laughter, no pancakes on the griddle, just whispers and stares. They found Adrian's journals in his luggage. Pages and pages of dreams. His, mine, others. Articles on nightmare induction, lucid control. Theories about psychological rebirth through trauma. One journal had a child's name scribbled dozens of times, my name. When they searched his laptop, they found more. Documents with titles like Manifestations Through the Innocent and Psyche Split, Theories of Cognitive Unbinding in Youth. They arrested him that morning. That was over 20 years ago. He served time. Not for what he did to me. Technically, that part never crossed into the physical. But for other things. Things I won't get into. I haven't seen him since. The house is still there. My grandparents passed on, and it was sold years ago to a couple from Maryland. Sometimes I pull it up on Google Maps. The shutters are different now. The lawn looks neater, but I can still see my bedroom window, third from the left. And I wonder if that blackness still waits just outside the glass. I don't dream much anymore. Not like I used to. But when I do, it's always the same. I'm back in that room, I hear the ocean, and I feel someone watching me from the doorway. I never see his face, but I always know it's him. Adrian, my uncle, my mentor, my monster. People always ask why I never talk about it. Why I don't do therapy. Why I flinch when someone calls me gifted or insightful. Because I trusted him. I loved him. And he used that love to worm into my mind. That's what haunts me. Not the dreams, not even that night. It's that the scariest person I've ever known wasn't a stranger. He was family. And he smiled the whole time. You know that feeling when you remember something that doesn't make sense, and it still makes your skin crawl? Like your brain keeps trying to explain it away, but your gut just won't let it go. That's how I feel about Silas. He wasn't always called that, not really. His real name was something longer, more old-fashioned, something that sounded like it belonged in a dusty Bible or an old horror movie. No one ever used it. He insisted on being called Silas. Said it was his true name. That should have been a red flag, I guess. But back then, he was just the weird kid. There's one in every school. Ours wore the same shapeless gray hoodie every single day, no matter the weather. Hood up, sunglasses on, even inside. He had this slack way of walking, like his body didn't quite belong to him. And he never smiled. Not once. Not even when he was trying to be funny. And he did try, sometimes, in this dry, cryptic way that made people even more uncomfortable. People whispered that he talked to himself, that he wrote curses in his notebooks, that he'd been expelled from his last school. I didn't believe most of it, at least not until it started happening to me. It was sophomore year when Silas adopted me. That's the word he used, adopted. He walked up to my locker, completely uninvited, and said, "You're safe now. I've chosen you." I laughed. I thought it was a joke. He didn't laugh back. He just nodded solemnly, like we'd struck some kind of deal. From then on, he hovered. He'd appear at the end of the hall when I left class. He'd be sitting alone at lunch, but somehow always facing my table. He never spoke to me again, not unless I spoke first. But I always felt him watching. I told my friends. They thought it was hilarious. Some even started teasing him with it. My friend Kayla started calling me the Chosen One. Another friend, Marcus, called Silas the Discount Dementor. I laughed with them, at first, but then things changed. It started with the name, his real one. No one used it, not even the teachers. But somehow, we found out. I don't remember who first said it. It might have been Kayla. She was big into pushing boundaries. I remember we were sitting around at her place one night, watching dumb YouTube videos and talking about school drama. His name came up once, and then twice. Then someone, Marcus, I think, said it a third time. Full name. All syllables. And the lights flickered, just for a second. But we all noticed. We joked about it, nervously. Said it was Bloody Mary for edgy loners. But we also stopped saying it. At least most of us did. Kayla didn't. She tried it again a few days later, alone in a classroom, just to prove it was BS. She texted us afterward, laughing. Then, about 5 minutes later, Silas showed up at her locker. He didn't say anything, just stood there, watching. She asked him what he wanted, and he said, "You called me. I'm here." That was the moment I stopped laughing. Over the next month, it got worse. People started testing it, saying his name, sometimes in groups, sometimes alone, and every time, somehow, he'd show up, no matter where they were, in the gym, in the parking lot. Once, even at a house party he definitely wasn't invited to. He'd just appear, quiet, still, staring. Some kids loved the drama. Others started getting genuinely freaked out. And then there was Gabby. Gabby lived in this little duplex not far from school. Her mom worked nights, so she was usually home alone after dinner. One night, she FaceTimed me, freaked out. Said she swore she'd heard someone whispering outside her window. When she looked, there was nobody there, but her porch light was on, and her mom always kept it off. 2 days later, she got to school and found a paper flower in her locker. It was folded out of notebook paper and tied with a piece of red yarn. On the inside, written in tiny letters, "Adopted." None of us said his name for a while after that. It all came to a head on a rainy night in November. I was home alone. My parents were at some overnight church retreat. The house was quiet, and the storm outside made it feel even more isolated. I remember trying to distract myself with TV, but the wind kept rattling the windows. Then I got a text from Kayla. "Want to summon the demon?" I should have ignored it. Instead, I replied, "You're insane." She sent me a voice memo. I hesitated to open it. When I finally did, I heard her say Silas's full name 3 times, slowly, clearly. I sent her about 10 messages after that. No reply. The rain kept falling. The thunder got louder. And I started to feel like I was being watched, even though every curtain was closed. I locked the doors, double-checked the windows, but it didn't matter. Because when I went to the front hallway, I saw something through the frosted glass of the door. A silhouette, not moving, just waiting. I backed away, breath frozen in my chest. A knock, not loud, just enough to freeze me where I stood. And then, silence. I ran to the back of the house, called Kayla, called Marcus, called anyone. No one picked up. I didn't know if I should call the police, if I was overreacting, or if it was a prank. Eventually, I built up enough courage to peek out the front window. There was nothing there. But when I opened the door, slowly, cautiously, I found something on the doormat. A bundle of fabric. It was a gray hoodie. His gray hoodie. Wrapped inside were 3 items. A pair of my earrings I thought I'd lost weeks ago. A photo of me and Kayla from last summer. A folded sheet of paper with 1 word on it. Mine. I don't remember much after that. Just calling my aunt in hysterics. She drove over and stayed with me until morning. We filed a report. The police talked to Silas at school, but he denied everything. Said he didn't know what I was talking about. He was calm. Too calm. They didn't press charges. Said there wasn't enough evidence. Just a weird kid and some circumstantial belongings. But I knew. I knew he'd been in my house at some point. Watching, taking things, maybe for weeks, and then he vanished. Just like that. Gone. He stopped showing up to school. No one saw him around town. His house was suddenly empty. I heard his family moved overnight. Some said it was because of mental health stuff. Others said it was something darker, but no one really knew. And the weirdest part, after he disappeared, strange things kept happening. Marcus swears he saw someone watching him from the woods near his backyard. Gabby got a package in the mail with no return address, just an old notebook filled with crossed-out names. One of them was hers, another was mine. It's been 8 years now. I live in a different city, different life. But sometimes, when the wind's just right and I pass someone in a gray hoodie with their head down, I feel that same dread crawl up my spine. I wonder where Silas went. What happened to him? If he really believed what he said, or if it was all part of something much, much worse. People ask me sometimes if I believe in demons. I usually say no, but I believe in obsession, in delusion, in people who don't see others as people, only as objects to claim, to protect, or to destroy. And I believe that once someone like that has chosen you, they never really let you go. If you've ever driven through Salt Lake City during a snowstorm, you'll know exactly what I mean when I say the world just sort of quiets down. The snow absorbs the sound and everything feels like it's moving through a slow-motion filter, white, still, and oddly serene. But serenity, as I learned that night, can be a damn good disguise for danger. It was early December, right in the thick of that strange time between Thanksgiving and Christmas, when the city gets blanketed in holiday lights and snow, and everyone's social calendar fills up with office parties and family dinners. I'd just gotten off work and was meeting my buddy Danny to head to a dinner party, being hosted by one of his coworkers in Sugar House. Danny and I had been friends since college. He was the type of guy who'd help push your dead car in a blizzard, no questions asked. Me? I'm more cautious. Some might call it paranoid. I prefer to be aware. Anyway, we had about a 20-minute drive ahead of us. The snow had picked up fast. By the time we got on the road, the flurries were thick, the roads slick, and visibility was down to maybe 2 car lengths. We figured we'd stop quickly at a liquor store near State Street to grab a bottle of wine, since showing up empty-handed felt rude, even if it was mostly strangers. The store was quiet. The guy at the register was half asleep. I remember the warmth in there, feeling almost too good, like we could have just hung out, sipping samples and waiting out the storm. But we had to keep moving. Back on the road, things got eerier. You know the type. Headlights bouncing off white snow, tire tracks fading within minutes, the city suddenly feeling a little too empty. We were heading east on a poorly lit 2-lane stretch just before the residential turnoff when we saw it. A car, maybe 15 yards ahead, dead center in the road. Hazard lights are blinking. Both front doors were wide open. Danny squinted through the windshield. "You seeing this?" "Yeah," I said. My voice was already tense. "Just drive around it." But Danny slowed the car, pulling his foot off the gas. What if someone needs help? It was the kind of thing you say without thinking. Danny was a good guy, solid heart, always the first to lend a hand. But my instincts screamed no. "Nope," I said louder now. "That doesn't feel right." We crept closer. The hazard lights blinked steadily, casting eerie pulses of orange against the snow-covered asphalt. The interior light of the car was on, but no one was inside, at least from what I could see. No movement. Just doors hanging open like someone had jumped out in a hurry. Danny eased us to a stop about 10 feet behind the car. "I'm just going to check real quick," he said, unbuckling. "Danny, wait." "I'll be quick," he said. "Could be a woman stranded or a kid." He stepped out before I could argue. I watched him walk slowly toward the car, arms up in a universal, not a threat posture. The hazard lights cast long shadows as he moved, his outline blinking in and out like something from a horror movie. That's when I saw it. Movement. Not from the front of the car, behind it. Just past the edge of the taillights, maybe 10 feet into the trees, there was a shift. Not an animal, not wind, a shape. Then another. I leaned forward, squinting through the windshield, heart racing. There were people out there, at least 2, maybe more. They weren't approaching, not yet. My blood turned to ice. I slammed the horn. Danny froze. The sound cut through the snow like a siren. He spun around, startled, and I waved him back frantically. He didn't hesitate. He ran. As soon as he yanked the door open and jumped in, I hit the gas. We slid for a second, ice under the tires. And then we were moving. Fast, no words. Just silence, except for our breath and the dull thump of my heartbeat in my ears. We didn't talk until we were blocks away. "What the hell was that?" Danny finally asked, breathless. "You didn't see them?" "See what?" I told him what I saw. The figures. The way they waited like they were staging something. His face went pale. We drove the rest of the way to the dinner party in silence. Neither of us really felt like celebrating after that, but we didn't want to cause a scene. We walked in, said hello, handed off the wine, and planted ourselves on the couch like statues. Our host must have picked up on our mood. At one point, she asked if we were okay. Danny said something about a rough drive. She nodded, probably assuming traffic or bad weather. But we knew better. It was close to midnight when we finally left. The snow had eased up a bit, and the city was starting to look peaceful again. But neither of us felt it. I dropped Danny off and headed home. The next morning, I woke up to my phone vibrating on the nightstand. It was a text from Danny. "Turn on Channel 4. I sat up, heart in my throat. The news broadcast was already halfway through the segment when I found the channel. A reporter stood bundled in front of a barricaded side road, camera panning over a familiar stretch of snow. I knew that road. She spoke with a gravity that sent chills down my spine. Police say the suspects used a staged vehicle, hazard lights on, doors open, as bait to lure drivers. When a woman and her teenage son stopped to help, they were carjacked at gunpoint. Authorities are now searching for at least 3 individuals believed to be armed and dangerous." I sat there frozen. The image of that blinking hazard light burned into my brain. It was the same setup, same trick, and we had almost fallen for it. I called Danny. We reported what we saw, gave a statement. The police took it seriously, but there wasn't much to act on. The car was gone by the time they arrived. No plates, no leads. That was it. Just a near miss. One of those could-have-been-worse stories people file away and never fully process. But I processed it. I still do. People talk about guardian angels, dumb luck, sixth sense. I don't know about any of that. What I do know is that a good deed, something as innocent as checking on a stalled car, could have ended with a gun in our faces. Or worse. And I think about how close it came. How seconds mattered. How the horn saved us. I still go to dinner parties, still drive through the snow. But I don't stop anymore. I don't assume the best. Because that night taught me something simple but chilling. Danger doesn't always look like a threat. Sometimes it looks like someone who needs help, and it waits for you, with the doors already open.